Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us for this AMETEK Solidstate Controls monthly webinar. And this month, we have a little bit of a treat. We have a guest presenter, Rob George from our R&D department. We'll get to that in just a moment. But if you want to type in the chat bar at the moment, if you can hear us okay, that would be a fantastic start. No point in me talking to myself. So we'll just wait for everybody to join and for somebody to let us know that you can hear us. And then once I see that, we will continue with the presentation. Thank you, Preston. Excellent. Good stuff. Preston beat us to it. It's usually London or somebody else within the AMETEK team that lets me know. Okay, so you can hear us. So this month we are going to talk about the new DCR display. That's the digital control rectifier. And first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Craig Williams. I'm the Senior Technical Manager for AMETEK Solidstate Controls. I'm based out of the Stafford office down on the southwest side of Houston. I've been with Solidstate Controls for 5 years, and I have over 20 years now in the industrial UPS industry for my sins. I've worked with all the major UPS charger manufacturers, so pretty much I would like to say I know what I'm talking about. And on the call with us today is Rob George. He's a software architect for AMETEK Solidstate Controls, and he has 15 years in the industrial UPS industry, all with Solidstate Controls. Isn't that correct, Rob?
Correct.
Yeah, cool. Just to let you know, as always, there will be a lag of around 30 seconds between you hearing my voice and us seeing a question. The way the webinar jam works is it sends out, it's got to process all of this data and send it out to an iOS device or an Android device or to a Windows device. So there is some processing that gets done, and from when I speak to you hearing my voice is about 15 seconds. So that means I'm not going to see a question until 15 seconds after I've spoken or after Rob's spoken. So what we tend to do because of that delay is if you do have a question, you can put it in the chat, but we will wait until the end of the webinar to answer any questions, and we'll go through them all at once. And we do welcome any and all questions at the end of the webinar, so please feel free to type them in as we go along. Webinar Jam has a panic button, and what that means basically is if I see in the chat bar that people can't hear us or they can't see the presentation or there's something wrong with the webinar presentation, then what I can do is I can press the panic button and Webinar Jam will kick everybody out of this room. It will create a new room, put everybody in that new room, and we will start from where we left off. So it should be a very seamless operation if we have to do that. A popular question is, will the webinar be recorded? And the answer to that question is yes, the webinar is always recorded. Webinar Jam itself records it. So if you're watching this, that means you signed up for the webinar. So you will get a link to rewatch this on Webinar Jam. The problem with that link is it's treated like a brand new webinar. So when you press play, it starts from the start and you can't fast forward it or rewind it or I think you can pause it, but you can't fast forward it or rewind it. So it's a bit of a pain. So what our fantastic marketing department do, and London has just put it in the chat bar there, is they take that video and they convert it into an MP4, upload it to our YouTube channel, and that way you can watch it on our YouTube channel with all the other presentations that we've done, and you can pause, fast forward, rewind, do whatever you want, and watch it whenever you want. You can share it. We have no problems with you sharing these videos to whoever you want. There's a much better way to do it. The unfortunate thing about that is it takes us about 24 hours to do that processing. So it will be tomorrow before the video gets uploaded to the YouTube channel. And for this presentation, Robbie has let us know that we can give you this presentation. So if you would like a copy of this presentation, then please get with our marketing department, and they'll be able to send out a copy of this presentation if you request it. Okay, and the last point is the webinar should last around about 1 hour usually. This is quite a quick presentation today. We'll see how it goes. So we may hit the 30-minute mark depending on how many questions we have. We're not going to keep you any longer than we need to today. So we'll see how it goes. So that is all of the introductions done. So what I will do now is I will hand it over to Robbie, and he can take it from here.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming. Today we're going to discuss the enhanced DCR display for our DCR systems. The objectives of today's webinar are, first, we're going to go over the DCR system basics. And then we're going to cover the current DCR display technology. And then we're going to cover our new enhanced DCR display and compare them with the old display. And then we're going to talk about new features that are become available because of this new technology. So the basics of our DCR, it's a digital battery charger system. We accept three-phase input voltages of 208, 380, 480, and 600 volts. And we have a range of currents starting at 32 amps up to 630 amps. And output voltages are 110 volts DC, 120, 220, and 240. And we can also customize pretty much anything. So we have, if you need a different voltage or different current, we can probably accommodate that as well. Our DCR systems are SCR phase control provides regulated current limited DC power. We have a reliable industrial design with up to 205,000 hours mean time between failures. Our DCR is UL 1012 listed and approved, and we meet all CE safety and EMC standards. And our systems are highly customizable. We can do different alarms that you would like, different voltages, as I said, breakers, fans, pretty much anything. The output specifications for our DCR is we have output current limit between 70% of the rated current and 102%. For grounding, we have a floating ground with optional positive and negative grounding schemes. Static regulation is less than 1% for simultaneous variations of plus or minus 10 volts on the input, and plus or minus 5% of the input frequency, and 0 to 100% load for both float and equalized mode. And dynamic regulation is plus or minus 8% from 10% to 90%, and 90% to 10% load variation in less than 300 milliseconds, and that's with or without batteries. Our system efficiencies are greater than 90% at full load. That varies on the size of the charger, but everything is above 90%. And our ripple characteristics are, if we don't have a filter, we have less than 2% of the ripple with battery connected. And we have an optional charger output filter with 0.1% ripple when the battery is connected. And then we have another custom option, which is 0.1% ripple filter without the battery connected. And that's another custom option. So the theory of operation for the DCR battery charger is the AC input power is converted to a regulated DC output by an SCR charge bridge. The charger is a constant potential, phase-controlled 12 or 6 pulse solid state type with constant voltage and current control circuitry. All of our inputs are isolated with an isolation transformer and an electrostatic shield, is supplied for immunity against input disturbances and galvanic isolation to the DC loads. The operation of the system is insensitive to AC input phase rotation. And in the event of a power loss, upon restoration of the AC input power, the rectifier will automatically resume supply to the load. Some features of our DCR system. We input power walking, so we slowly, gradually ramp up the DC voltage and current to accept the load and prevent power surges. And we have reverse polarity protection to prevent the positive or negative legs of the output to be from being reversed. If it is reversed, it'll blow an input fuse, or an output fuse, I'm sorry. We have an over temperature shutdown feature that will happen after 10 seconds of the rectifier heatsink exceeding a pre-programmed limitation. If this over temperature shutdown happens, the DCR will be given 5 minutes to cool down, and then it'll restart by itself. We have a high DC shutdown, so the high DC voltage shutdown. It'll shut down if the DC voltage reaches a level which is software defined. The charger will be power cycled to restart after a high voltage shutdown, or needs to be power cycled by manually. Use of the charger in equalizer commission mode will temporarily disable this function. So the equalizer voltage or commission mode voltage are going to be higher. It could be higher than the high DC shutdown voltage. Now I'm going to talk about our current DCR display. We use a membrane keypad with 8 buttons to navigate and control the DCR. There are 7 indicator lights on this front panel that give you the system status. There are dedicated buttons for the float and equalize mode transitions, and an alarm silence button and a lamp test button. The DCR display allows up to 15 configurable dry relay contacts to give the status of the system and any active alarms. The current DCR display uses a 20 character by 4 character alphanumeric monochrome LCD with a backlight. This LCD does not have a touchscreen, so you have to use the membrane switch buttons to navigate through the screens. It displays the system measurements and any active alarms that are on the system. The customers can go in and adjust alarm set points and delays as they see fit using the screen or using the LCD screen. And we have optional communications package that allows the system to be accessed, and you can see the status via a web page. And we also talk to Modbus RTU and Modbus TCP. So now I'm going to talk about the weaknesses of the current DCR display. The 20 by 4 alphanumeric monochrome LCD limits the amount of information that can be displayed, since it only can fit 80 characters on the entire screen. Navigation and control using the membrane keypad is difficult and slow. I think that's the biggest complaint we hear about our DCR systems. We have limited non-volatile memory that prevents adding new features to this product. We can't have, for example, we can't have a battery history log because we don't have enough memory to store the log. This display uses decades-old, probably 20-year-old technology, so it severely limits our expandability. And we have a problem with phantom cabinet humidity alarms activating with this display.
Say it isn't so, Rob.
Yeah, that's another big complaint we have. So here, this is our new DCR display. So it's a 5-inch, 400 or 800 by 480 pixel color backlit LCD with a resistive touchscreen. It uses a modern ARM processor to do all the computations. We have a brand new graphical user interface that enables animations and makes navigation much easier. We have a micro SD card that enables memory expansion, so we can record things like the battery history log. We got rid of the membrane keypad because that with the touchscreen we don't really need it to navigate, and it is difficult to use. And we eliminated a lot of the LED indicators that are on the front panel and just put a normal or trouble alarm. So the normal would be green if everything is operating as expected, and the red trouble indicator LED will be on if there's any problems. All right, so I'm going to leave this presentation for a few seconds and show you guys the animations that are present on our new displays. This is just an example, so I can't navigate, but it's a short video. So we have animated power flow. We have the AC coming in on the left there, and you can see it's a waveform. And then we have the DC power flow on the output. So right now, this is the charger is supplying all of the current to the load. We also have animated fan animations that will turn red and stop spinning if you have a problem with the fan. And if there's a problem with the charger box below the fan will flash red or glow, I guess more like a glowing red pulse to let you know there's a problem.
So in the top right-hand corner, there's the alarm bell. So that tells us that there is an alarm in. Is that what it's telling us?
Yeah, and I have a slide, upcoming slide that will show exactly what everything means on this.
Okay, cool. Screen. Sorry to interrupt.
All right. So some advancements that were made with a new DCR display that make life easier with our DCR systems is so now we can easily navigate between screens utilizing the dock navigation menu there on the left with those 6 icons. And we'll also show you that in the next slide. You can quickly determine the system status due to the increased screen size and the colors and the animations that are made available. We now have animated power flow, and our measurements and alarm readings are also the measurements are reading the measurements are animated gauges, and the alarm readings are color coded, so problems can be spotted instantly. So on this screen, you can see. Actually, I'm going to share this video as well. This video I'm going to show you has 2 alarms active on the system. So here on the top right, you can see there are, with a bell icon, there's 2 alarms, and the battery icon to the left is red and has a battery discharging logo. So you can see here we have the charger output breaker open. So all the current is being supplied by the battery, and the charger cannot get any current past the DC output breaker. Sorry, charger output breaker. And this mimic screen will change depending on the status of the system automatically. So here is the kind of how to decode everything that's on the mimic screen. So all of the buttons on the left of this image and the status bar along the top are on every screen. So no matter where you navigate to, you'll still always have access to all these. So if you hit the hamburger button on the top left, it'll slide out this navigation panel that'll show you what each icon means. But you can also click on the icons when they are when it's collapsed, so they don't take up much room when they're on the left there.
And just in case anybody's asking, if you're not familiar with GUIs or GUIs, which is the software interfaces, a hamburger menu is the 3 lines that you see on the top left-hand side of the screen there.
Yes. Thank you for clarification.
No problem.
So the next icon over from the left, starting at the left after the hamburger button, is the alarm silence button. When the alarm buzzer is active, you can silence the alarm by pressing this button. When it is active, this one's silence too. Over on the first box in the top right shows you the two different states of the alarm silence button. It'll be in color when it is active, and you press it to silence the alarm.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the whiteboard on here just a moment.
Okay. Can they see my pointer then?
Yeah, and then what I can do is they won't see your pointer, but you can either
select or circle or something.
Yeah, let me just do this. We'll make it red, and then you can point at it like that. You have to draw with.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Cool.
So what I'm talking about here is this alarm silence button. It's black. How do I change it?
Okay, it's on the left-hand side of the screen. You can change it to red, and then clears at the top right.
All right, so yeah, there we go. So there's the alarm silence button. Next to that, we have a lock and unlock toggle button. So you have to log in with a password to be able to change things like the alarm set points and delays. So when we log in, we will change from this locked button right here on the right to this unlocked gold button. That means that any privileged information can be changed when you are in the unlocked state. And another advancement with the new display is that when you navigate away from a screen that requires a password, you don't have to re-enter it again. It'll automatically stay logged in for 5 minutes, or no, 10 minutes by default. You can also log back out if you're logged in by clicking on the gold unlocked button. And then the next thing we have in the middle of the screen here is just the title of the screen. We call this screen our mimic screen. And then we have our battery control button. So by clicking this or pressing this button when the battery is green, like it is here, so the system is currently in float mode. By clicking that, you can change it to equalize mode, which is this amber button here. And when the battery is in, say for the example, the battery is in discharging like it was in that last video we saw, you can't click on the button and change anything, but it'll at least show you that the battery is discharging with this red battery button. If we have a communication failure, that battery will turn gray. And then one of our last options we have is a battery commissioning mode, which sets the voltage higher than even the equalized voltage to commission a brand new battery. Sometimes battery manufacturers require this. So it'll show you if it's in that commissioning mode when the battery is yellow.
Yeah, that's especially true for NiCad batteries.
Okay. And then the last fixed element we have on every screen is the alarm status button in the top right of that screen. You'll show if it's excuse me. If the bell icon is green, that means there are 0 active alarms. And if it's red, it'll show you that there are active alarms, and it'll display the number of active alarms that there are on the system. And you can click on that button, and I don't have an example of this, but it'll pop up a pop-up window that shows you exactly which alarms are active. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next screen here. Do I have to close the whiteboard, Craig? Or just...
No, I'll just press clear for you. There you are.
Okay. Actually, can you close it? I can't see the top.
Okay, yeah, not a problem. I have that issue all the time. There we go.
All right. So some new features that are enabled with this new technology are animated power flow that we've already just, discussed and seen. We also have these analog meters, or animated analog gauges. Even not really analog, but it allows some graphical representation of your currents and voltages, and they'll animate and move around the same way that they would for an actual standalone gauge. And these gauges are also available on our website or on the web page for the system if you choose the communications package option. We now have a battery history log and a battery test log. We have these on our UPS products right now, but the new components allowed these logs to be stored on the SD card that's on the system now. We have faster network connectivity than we previously had, and due to this new network connectivity, we allows us to do NTP communication, which is network time protocol. So you can once every hour, the system will go out to a server. You enter the IP address on the system, and it'll update its current time with the server. We also have built-in SNMP communication that we did not have in the previous versions. It's also an option, but we can select it very easily, and there's no extra hardware required. So since we got rid of the keypad, we lost the hardware buttons for the float and equalize and alarm silence and lamp test. So the float and equalize status can be changed by clicking on the battery icon in the top right, like we discussed on the last slide. I forgot to mention that when a system is in equalize and the battery is amber, if you click on it again, it'll change it back to float. And since we don't have an alarm silence button, that alarm silence icon on the top left of the menu it's always displayed is available. So some other new things with the new display is that we have the ability, the customers have the ability to disable the nuisance cabinet humidity alarms that they've been struggling with for a while now. We also have the ability to view all of the system status in the data log. So when an event occurs, you can click on the data log event on the data log screen, and it'll pop up this image here on the right of the window with all the statuses at the time when that event occurred. I will say that this image has every option available. So depending on what options the customer has, maybe AC input voltage won't be available, for example, and that'll just be blank. So some customers, on our current systems, we have a DCR port, a USB port on the DCR. Some customers request that we don't have that, so we remove the harness. With the new DCR, the USB port is built into this board, so it's always there. So we needed a way to disable it. So on the back of the display board, we have a dip switch that allows the USB port to be disabled. And the customer can also choose if they receive an active alarm when the the USB port is enabled. We also have a real-time clock on this, so if you don't use network time protocol in TP, you can still set and keep your time and date. And that battery is now replaceable. And if the battery voltage starts to go low, you will get an alarm that says the display battery is low. So it can be replaced while the system is running. And then we also have a new louder alarm buzzer. The old buzzer on this old systems is underpowered, and it was very hard to hear in loud environments. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is retrofits for this new display. So the system is fully backwards compatible with their existing DCR systems, except for a few exceptions that it's still backwards compatible, but they don't work exactly the same. The indicator LEDs on the old board were float, equalize, fault, high DC voltage, low DC voltage, and charge fail. Those are all replaced by two indicators. We either have normal or trouble. You can still see all those the status of all those on the screen, but we don't have individual LEDs for them anymore. And that the same thing goes for those hardware buttons. The float, equalize, alarm silence, and lamp test have all been replaced by soft buttons. The float, equalize, and alarm silence are all on the navigation frame on the screen on every page. And then the lamp test can now be executed using the diagnostic screen. So the one drawback with the new display is that since the opening is so much larger, that we have to have a new door assembly for each retrofit. That's just the nature of the beast, and we're stuck with that. And the last thing is the retrofits should be available in Q4 2022. So contact your field service rep to inquire about that if you would like. And so that's the end of this. Do we have any questions, Greg?
Yeah, we do. So the first one is Jamshed asked, let me go back to the screen that they were referring to. Basically, they were asking why we saw the current as 0. I think it was this screen here. So I'll answer that question. So you can see, let me turn the whiteboard on again. You can see here that we have 106 amps flowing out of the charger, and that's flowing out to the load itself. Okay, if we showed the animated drawing, you would see that there was some current going to the battery, but the resolution on this current reading here, the amount of current to keep a battery on float charge is usually less than half an amp. So the resolution on that battery current is not seeing enough. And in truth, remember, this is a mock-up. Is it just to 1 decimal point, Rob, that current? Do you remember?
It's not to any decimal points. It's not a whole number.
Oh, so it's a whole number. Okay.
It's a whole number.
So
it's always rounded down.
Oh, it's always rounded down.
Yes.
Okay. So even if that was 0.9 amps, then it's still going to show 0 amps. So, and that's the same with most battery chargers, whether it's an analog meter or a digital meter. It's very difficult to monitor a small amount of DC current. It's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. So there is some resolution issues, but that's the same with everyone. Brenda asked, so we can offer replacements for existing DCRs? I think Rob answered that. Yes, absolutely. But like you said, Brenda, this is not for the RCS or any other earlier charges. No. So this is only for the DCRs because it has to communicate with the digital charger control board inside the DCR charger. So yes, it is absolutely backward compatible with all the older DCRs. But like Rob said, because the screen is larger, we have to supply you with a door and a harness. It's a very easy swap. We did it down here in Houston with one of our DCR chargers. It's an extremely easy swap to do. You just take the door off, which is very simple, replace the door, and then plug in the harness, and it's pretty much that's the job done. So it works very, very well. But there was no way to get around the fact that this screen is bigger and we needed a bigger hole in the door, and we didn't want to ask people to take a sawzall to the door. How many additional...
Go ahead. You actually don't even need a harness. The harness that's currently in the systems will work fine.
Oh,
I think what you're referring to was the prototype boards.
Oh, okay.
That we had a design error on.
Okay. How many additional optional lamps can we add to a new DCR? I'm guessing that's 0.
Correct.
Okay.
Just 0. We are stuck with 2 normal and trouble.
Okay. So all alarms will be shown on the digital screen, but there will be no optional lamps that you can add to the new DCR panel. Amit asks, what will be the life expectancy of the DCR from what what was it, 400,000?
205,000.
205,000 hours.
Yeah.
What's that calculation come down to, Rowie?
Put you on the spot.
I thought you would have that off the top of your head.
8,000 days, 8,500 days, or 23 years.
23 years. Okay.
That's with preventative maintenance.
Yes, that's with preventive maintenance. That's with changing the DC capacitors and the fans and performing all the maintenance that's required. But a good question, Amit. Thank you for asking that. And are there any warranty coverages of the new DCR? I'm not quite understanding what you're asking there, Amit. I don't know. Are there any warranty coverage of new DCR covered with? I would assume you're maybe talking about if we retrofit a new DCR door onto an old DCR panel, what you're going to get is, if it's performed by an AMETEK representative or an FSC, then you will get the standard 1-year warranty with that new display. If you buy it as a spare part and install it yourself, is that even something we're recommending at present, Rob? Is it plug and play?
It would be plug and play as long as the customer can replace the door.
Okay, then there is a limited, I think it's only a 60-day warranty on spare parts bought directly from us and installed by yourself. I would have to check on that, but I can do that. Okay, let's look in the Q&A, see if there's anything. Okay, that question has been answered. Thank you for the question, Ramsey. But yes, the question was, can any of our older chargers be updated with this new screen? And the answer to that is only the DCRs can be replaced. This cannot be put on any of our old analog systems, which is the RCS,
BCR.
BCR, that's right, yeah. None of those systems will accept that screen. What I will say is, you can see on the screen here, this is the old screen. As Robbie mentioned, that those buttons were a pain. There's no doubt about it. There were many sites that we went to that they were worn through because people were pressing them extremely hard, because sometimes the response to those keys was a little bit slow. So going to the new display and having the soft keys, and it's something that we're all used to now with our phones. It's all touchscreen technology now, and it just makes sense. It's more reliable, and just makes it much easier for you to navigate through the system.
And this is a resistive touchscreen, so you can use it with any gloves or
nice
stylus or anything. It's not like your phone.
So it's not a capacitive, it's resistive. Cool. That's good to know. Amit has asked, is there any firmware or software versions required after you replace the door?
No.
Nope.
It'll work backward compatible with all of the current and previous
DCR system.
The charger control board software.
Okay. Good stuff. That's all the questions I see so far. So what I always do is I like to be like the auctioneer and say going once, going twice, going 3 times. If you have any more questions, please put them in the chat before we leave. As we mentioned earlier, we knew this was going to be a little bit shorter than our regular presentation. But if you have any more questions, please put them in the chat. Don't forget that if you need any additional information or you have any questions about this webinar or anything else, you can go to our website. London has just put the link in there. If you click on that, there's lots of options. It takes you to our training calendar. There's so much information on there about our systems. You can email us at sci.marketing@ametek.com. Once again, that's in the chat. and marketing will forward that email to the necessary department so it can be answered correctly. And also, you can pick up the phone, give us a call. You call 1-800-635-7300, and you will go through a phone tree, but after that phone tree, you will speak to a human. I promise you, you will speak to a human during office hours, and actually after office hours as well. We use an answering service, and the human will answer that for you and get you to the right person. Once again, the videos will be available on our YouTube site. London will be busy converting that to an MP4 and posting that on our YouTube site. I'm sure she will post the link in just a moment to show you where that link is if you joined us late. And once again, if you do want a copy of this presentation, the presentation that we will send will have the animations on it for you, so you can see the screen working as it would as if it was in normal operation. Obviously, you can't interact with it; it's just a video, but you can see it, and you can get that by contacting the sci.marketing@ametek.com email, and they will get back to you. And see, London, you're fantastic. She just put the YouTube link in the chat there as well. Okay, so it looks like no further questions have come in. So at this point, I would just like to say thank you very much, Rob, for taking time out of your day and going through that presentation for us. I really appreciate it. It looks like it's going to be a really good upgrade for all the new systems that come out with this, and obviously, if you like what you see, it can be retrofitted onto our old DCRs as well to bring it up into the 20th century. So it looks like a really good option for many people. So also, London will be sending out a follow-up email with all the information in case you miss it. So anybody who registered for this will get that follow-up email. So at this point, I would just like to take the time to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day. We know you all have very busy lives, and wherever you are in the world, we appreciate you taking the last 45 minutes out of it and taking the time to be with us to introduce you to this DCR display. We will be posting the next webinar probably within the next couple of weeks. We're still in October, so that should be fine. We're probably not going to do one in November because of Thanksgiving, but I'll give you an update next month with that webinar. But as always, if you have any topics that you want us to cover in the webinars, please email or fill in the survey and let us know. I read every single one of them, and I really am interested in what you want to have presented during these webinars, because this isn't for me. This isn't for me so I can speak and show you stuff. This is for you so you can learn and see new things and have things explained. So please reach out to us and let us know if you have any topics that you want us to cover on future webinars. So without further ado, I will just say thanks again. Thank you, Rob. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for joining us. Take care, everyone.